For a friend who has lost hope. I know you are on your knees and broken. I know that you believe you are done. Keep breathing. Just keep breathing. A wound is the same as a child. It swings its little feet in the shadows, saying, "You have no idea. You have absolutely no idea what I am going to become." Joseph Fasano. Hello and welcome to the podcast Anxiety My Friend with me, Raquel Coelho. This is the final episode of the mini-series about psychedelics. What, I hear you ask? I know I had a few incredibly inspirational people lined up to talk on the show, but I do not feel capable of creating the full series that I wanted to create with the time I have. So here's a humble example of failure and an apology. I am sorry to disappoint you, my loves. Accepting this failure got me thinking about the why of this podcast in the first place. It's not meant to be the podcast where you deep dive into a topic. Instead, it's meant to be diverse and fresh. So I need each episode to stand alone. Each episode is meant to inspire you by sharing some of the tools, ideas, and people that have been inspiring me in that moment. So there may or may not be future episodes about psychedelics, but the chances are there won't be too many mini-series anymore. Let's see. Let me tell you though, sweet listener, about how all this started back in January 2020. Nearly 5 years ago, after a few years of me feeling disturbed by the knowledge that so many people were being prescribed antidepressants and or anti-anxiety pills without any sort of cognitive or behavioral education, psychoeducation, social prescribing, or therapy. The idea of medicating people and not working with them to analyze their everyday life, their day-to-day routines, their relationships, it blew my mind. It still does to this day, especially when so many of us who suffer with anxiety get into behavioral loops that do anything but help. Some are looking at a bright screen until late, scrolling on social media, hanging out with people who have negative impact on our well-being, etc. That feeling of frustration pushed me to create a resource that would inspire people to take more ownership of their life and health, and in a way, help their medical professionals too. Think about it. An informed patient who is changing their lifestyle needs to let their psychiatrist or family doctor know what they're up to and how it's impacting their life. Let's be clear, this is not a blame game. What I am saying is that who you surround yourself with, the things you fill your days with, the food you fill your belly with, all those impact your well-being, physical, mental, spiritual. So yes, you can take meds that make sense, and you can redesign your days to support those meds and your health at large. If I have to be short and blunt, I'll say, it's hard work to be alive. It never gets easier forever. Some people, like my husband David, are glass half full people who seem to have an innate ability to see the possibilities in all they encounter. And then there are the glass half empty people, like me, who tend to feel abandoned and dismissed. I then have to take my inner child by the hand, figuratively speaking, comfort her, and remind her that she is loved, that this too will change, and that no, she has not been abandoned. And then, and only then, Am I able to see the possibilities that stand ahead of me and sometimes beside me? It might be easier for some people to flow through life, and others feel like they're too busy to question any habit as if they have no choice, or they're too numb to feel any aches. Whatever the situation, it will change. Let's say things get bright and sunny for a period, but then suddenly and brutally the rug gets ripped from under your feet. You get swept into the air and come crashing down. Trust that that too will change. But don't expect any drug or strategy to be the answer to everything. Instead, stay open to learning and be kind to yourself. Just like in Joseph Fasano's poem with which I opened this episode, keep breathing. Just keep breathing. A wound is the same as a child. It swings its little feet in the shadow, saying, "You have no idea, absolutely no idea what I'm going to become." For we do not know what tomorrow will become. And now, for today's episode, I have two goals. First, to share a harm reduction resource provided freely and anonymously in Portugal. And secondly, to point you in the direction of some excellent people and resources that can help you deepen your knowledge of psychedelics. This way, you can go and do your own research based on the unique makeup of your situation and make informed decisions about psychedelics in your life. Let's talk about the urgent need for harm reduction strategies. One of the greatest dangers when using psychedelics is not the psychedelic itself, but other ingredients that get added in order to make the production process cheaper and increase profit. In the document, European Drug Report 2024 Trends and Developments, the European Union Drugs Agency says that availability remains high across all substance types. And I quote, "The information available suggests that the market is now characterized by the widespread availability of a broader range of drugs than in the past, with substances often available at high potency or purity or in new forms, mixtures or combinations. The European Union Drugs Agency will continue to invest in developing new data sources that can provide a more detailed picture of drug consumption patterns, such as data from drug testing services or syringe monitoring studies. For example, multiple substances are commonly detected in used syringes collected at syringe exchange sites, often including stimulants and opioids, suggesting that these drug classes are commonly used together in European cities. Fentanyl and nitazenes, for example, are used and can lead to deadly poisoning." End of quote. In Portugal, you can test anonymously and for free, and this will reduce the potential for poisoning and will encourage everyone to think about their set and setting. Set refers to the mental state a person brings to the experience, like thoughts, mood, and expectations, and the setting is the physical and social environment. People can also think about how they want to take a drug, instead of just quickly and blindly diving into a totally unknown. An important implication of free and anonymous testing is that if a buyer finds that the product they purchased is lined with dangerous ingredients, they will not buy from the same supplier again, and this will certainly encourage suppliers to work with better quality, safer products. Both production and distribution are made by entities whose only objective, let's face it, is profit. Quality is not a priority. So if we consider that oftentimes overdoses are actually caused by reactions to ingredients that have adulterated the original psychoactive substance, it's important to protect the population through the availability of free testing centers. In Portugal, you can check out Cosmicare for free and anonymous testing. It's cosmicare.org, so K-O-S-M-I-C-A-R-E, cosmicare.org. And now for some quick resources. If you want to support a local association, check out SPACE. It's an association that promotes literacy about clinical potential of psychedelics. You can become a member and access lots of webinars and resources. I was going to talk to Dr. Inês Carmo, who co-founded Space and is doing incredibly inspirational work in Portugal. Check out her work by following the link in the show notes. Have you heard of psychedelic care? Psychedelic care, so Psychedeliccare. It's also on the show notes. It's the Future European Citizens Initiative for the medical use of psychedelics in the European Union. And yes, I said future because it will be launched on January 14th, 2025, 5 years after the start of this podcast. According to psychedeliccare.eu, the estimated cost of mental ill health is, and wait for it, the estimated cost of mental ill health is 600 billion euros. Ouch. And I'm going to quote them. An unseen mental health emergency is sweeping across the European Union like a silent pandemic. These are the words of Stella Kyriakides, who is a commissioner for health and food safety. Psychedeliccare.eu have some requests to the European Commission. One, support the establishment of an expert consensus on standards of psychedelic care, allowing the phased rollout of the medical use of psychedelics in the European Union. 2. Boost EU-funded research into the promising therapeutic applications of psychedelic compounds to meaningfully increase scientific and clinical evidence on the safety and efficacy of psychedelic novel treatments. Thirdly, to coordinate the work of member states willing to make appropriate recommendations to the 1971 Convention on Psychotropic Substances, as the evidence indicates a public health benefit for rescheduling these compounds. To wind down today's episode, I'll bring in Aldous Huxley's words from the book Island. It's dark because you are trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly even though you're feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them. There are quicksands all about you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair. That's why you must walk so lightly. Lightly, my darling. End of quote. And with that, I've come to the end of today's episode of the podcast Anxiety My Friend with me, Raquel Coelho. If you enjoyed the podcast, pass it on to someone else. Be sure to review, to like, to comment. In the meanwhile, I will hope to learn to do everything lightly. You too, my darling, lightly, like Aldous Huxley's words. Sending you lots and lots of love. I look forward to speaking to you soon.